Hey folks, hope you're all doing well and welcome to episode 20 of Recommend an Album to Review. Alright, so how the show works is in the comments, you folks are kind enough to put in some suggestions for some albums for me to listen to. The criteria has to be an album that I haven't already covered or a band that I haven't, well, a band that I've covered, but maybe an album that I haven't covered. Something that's about, not crazy long, regular sized album, not a live album, and no double albums and such. And then I'll listen to it, and then the following week I post a review. So for this week, one of the subscribers suggested a band that I never heard of, and obviously the record that I'd never heard of. So this was kind of cool. I always like discovering new music. And the band I'm talking about this week is called Freak Seed, and the album is called Ignition. Now, this band, there's not a lot of information on them. I just, I wanted to look up, kind of see what time period they were in and if they were still around, that sort of thing. That's really all I was looking for. But what I found information-wise about this band is that they were only together from 95 to 98, and it looks like they got back together in 2009. They're from Morristown, New Jersey, and the lineup here, it's telling me, is Keith Piper on the drums, Jason Tremper, guitars and bass, and Dave Coulieu on guitars and vocal effects. So, and I'm sure that it looks like there was some lineup changes, but those are the members that they're saying now, or that were around in 2009, I guess. So sort of, broad spectrum what I hear with this record. At first I thought it was Metallica, but the more I listen to it, what I really hear a lot of in this band is I hear a lot of Pantera influence. So imagine Pantera without a crazy, top level guitar player like Dimebag. Not that the lead playing on this is bad, it's just it's not on that level. And without the heavy kind of percussive interlock thing with Vinnie Paul. So a little lighter on the drums, a little lighter on the guitar, and straight singing, not so much of the fill ensemble kind of belting thing. And you get this. Now you're going to say, well, I just mentioned three things that aren't sounding like Pantera. Well, their riffs and their songs sound a lot like Pantera songs. They have that same kind of vibe, that same kind of construction, the arrangements of it. I just hear a lot of Pantera on this. But it's not, I'm not saying that as a negative. That's just what it reminds me of. And, they do a pretty good job of it. Some of the riffs on here and some of the tunes are pretty cool. But let's go through that. Now, this record has a couple of little shorter songs. In total, there's like 12 tracks on it, but there's a couple really short ones in here. The first track on the record is actually it's just a sound effect of like a ship taking off, and they call that Ignition. And then it leads into Killing Me. So Killing Me is really the first track on here. And I mean, speaking of the Pantera thing, I mean, that is got Pantera written all over it. Some really great riffing going on there. That is a really, really good song. That's one of the my favorites on this record, actually, is Killing Me. Just a bunch of really cool grooves strung together, and it just rocks. It's a nice up-tempo rocker all the way through. All right, the next track is called Ribcage. So Ribcage introduces some acoustic guitar. It's got, the acoustic is sort of this really kind of haunting, foreboding kind of arpeggios that he's playing, and then the heavy guitars come in. This song's okay. It's just, I like the acoustic guitar part really good, really well, but it's when it comes in heavy, there's just not enough going on there. So this song is okay. But anyway, there you go. Track number 2, Ribcage. And then we have Zero Reflection. That's right out of the Pantera playbook. With those crazy sort of weird atonal type bends he throws in his riffs sometimes. Just a really good up-tempo, heavy rocker. I mean, even the guitar tone sounds like Daryl. But anyways, Daryl, sorry. Just a straight up really good rocker. not a bad song at all. All right, then we do come up to one of those shorter songs I was talking about. This was like a minute and 30 seconds, Earthworm Fever. It's just a really sped up, kind of punky type song. Uh, doesn't really do it for me, but yeah, Earthworm Fever is that one. And next up, we have Quarantine. Quarantine's pretty cool. It's got a nice riff, another up-tempo song, much like the other ones I mentioned earlier. I like when the drums go into halftime and they do that sort of at the tail, sort of the bridge, three-quarter point. Yeah, just another heavy rocker. Just another head banging rocker. All right, then we have Mumy Vager. That's just kind of a punk song. It just got some sort of big block chords going through it with a little lead line over top, a little melody line. It's got some good melody in it. It's some good vocals. It's probably one of the more melodic songs on here. It's got kind of that pop punk kind of hooky melody part to it. Not a bad track. Not a bad track. And then you got Skinside Out. That's kind of a sort of a lumbering, heavy track that kind of moves along. I don't know. There's not that type of song where it just kind of lumbers along. It doesn't really. It's got the riff. If the riff doesn't grab you and you hear it pretty much throughout the whole song, then the song really doesn't work. And for me, that song, it has one of those riffs that doesn't really grab me, and it's pretty much the whole tune. So, yeah, Skinside Out, not one of my favorites. All right, then you have Terar. That's another one of those minute and a half sort of really fast, I guess, thrash kind of punky tunes, which, it's there. All right, then you got Sedative. Sedative is the closest thing these guys come to sort of a bluesy riff. It's a cool riff, and it just kind of runs through the song, and there's a B section. It's not a bad song. It's just there's not enough there for me. Yeah, but that's Sedative. All right, then we got God's Head. I love God. God's Head and probably the first real song here after the sound effects. So Killing Me, probably my two favorite tracks on here. What's cool about God's Head is it has the riff, which is cool, and then there's a modulation within the riff, which is like a really nice hook, and it carries all the way through. And there's a cool B section that goes along with it. So yeah, God's Head for me, and along with the I'm so bad with names, I got to keep looking it up. Killing Me. Those two probably are my favorites on here. So here you go. All right, the last track is called Sick and Wired. Kind of a mid-tempo, heavy tune, but it's got some really nice guitar textures that, along with the heaviness, there's some nice guitar textures in there, some nice colors, if you will. Yeah, not a bad track. It's one of the better ones, Sick and Wired. Alrighty, so what do I think about this record? I think it sounds a lot like Pantera, as I mentioned. It's got a lot of those tendencies, guitar tone-wise, riff-wise, and so on. I mean, vocals are, and the drums and all that aren't, and the level of guitar playing is not Dimebag level. So this is kind of, for me, like a little weaker version of them. They don't have the hooks and the crazy good riffs that Pantera had. And we did a Pantera show not too long ago, so. But let's step away from the Pantera comparison for a minute and just look at it on its own. On its own, it's pretty good. It's there's enough cool riffs and moments in this to make it a good album in my estimation. There are a couple of dogs on here, but the dogs are usually those little shorter things that they throw in. But there's a lot to like on this record. Yeah, I think if you like, like heavy riff-based rock, and some nice melody here and there and some cool riffs, you'd probably dig this record. So out of 5, I would probably give this probably about a 3. Between a 3 and a 3.5. Maybe a little more leaning towards the 0.5 than the 3, if that's fair. But anyway, yeah, not a bad record. The band is Freak Seed. The album is called Ignition. Thanks so much for watching. Please, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. I am slowly approaching 4,000 subscribers, and I have you folks to thank for that. Hit the like button. This is going to air just before Christmas. So, folks, happy holidays. Merry Christmas to you, and we'll catch you next time. Cheers.